Good morning. I'm Stewart Dalby and I am energy correspondent for Mirador Television. I'm also editor and publisher of renewable energy website called greenbarrel.com. In the past I've come in and talked thoughts that are in my head basically, but so much has happened with Ukraine and energy crises in the past couple of weeks. I'm going to read for you, if you will allow, an article that I published on Green Barrel, which is entitled, "Why Do Mad Autocrats Seem to Become Preoccupied with Energy Security?" Vladimir Putin is not the only deranged dictator in history to have become preoccupied with his energy situation. Back in that period of 23rd of August 1942 to the 2nd of February 1943, Hitler's German army and his allies fought against the Soviet Union for the control of the city of Stalingrad. The battle was fought because whoever controlled Stalingrad would have access to the abundant oil fields in the Caucasus, controlled by Russia. At this point, Hitler's oil supplies were dwindling. The battle for Stalingrad and its oil was pivotal and one of the bloodiest battles in the history of warfare. Hitler's failure to win it presaged his defeat in the Second World War. Almost 80 years on, another deranged dictator called one Vladimir Putin is very preoccupied with his energy situation, albeit in a different way. Russia cannot be called a failed state in terms of industrialization and its raw materials like gold and palladium it has, but fossil fuels dominate its economy. Russia is the second largest exporter of oil in the world, and everyone must know by now that Russia under Putin dominates the supply of gas through pipelines to Western Europe to the tune of 40% of the total supply. Gas dependence does vary across Western Europe. Germany, which since the Fukushima disaster of 2011 has gradually been closing its nuclear plants, relies on Russia for 2/3 of its gas. The Netherlands gets a quarter of its gas from Russia, France 17%, Spain 10%. All these aforesaid countries have to worry about any interruption in the supply of gas. This is because of events such as the outbreak of war would see the price of gas spike exponentially. Recently, it went up to £6 a therm, double what it had been a week before. On the Wednesday in February, when Putin's troops started invading Ukraine, for example, the gas price, already at high record, increased by another 40%. Ostensibly, we in Britain should be immune from this gross gas price inflation. We only receive 5% of our gas from Russia. The rest comes from our remaining but dwindling reserves in the North Sea and onshore Britain, large imports from Norway and highly expensive imports of liquid natural gas, LNG, from Qatar in the Middle East. So here in Britain, we, in theory, could get by if Putin turned off the gas tap, couldn't we? Unfortunately not. We exist in an international market and thus are subject to fluctuations in wholesale gas prices like everybody else. So how did it come to this? How did Europe in general and Britain in particular become to be dependent on Russian energy? In an article published in the Sunday Times newspaper, Sir Dieter Helm, energy professor and economist at Oxford University and government advisor on energy matters, was quoted as having outlined two possible narratives on how we developed a dependency on Russia. Dieter Helm has for a long time been known as a skeptical on whether renewable energy can make the energy mix in the short term. So, according to the Sunday Times, the first narrative is that decarbonisation and the race to net zero carbon zero, are to blame. By prioritising wind and solar while allowing our gas supplies to dwindle, this argument goes, we have neglected energy security and allowed Putin to gain a strategic advantage. Other people who are opposed to this thirst narrative argue that our green policies have just not gone far enough. I have found over the years, these years, there simply has not been enough investment in renewable energy to meet the energy mix. Since the gas is the least polluting of the fossil fuels, I believe that there has to be a gas bridge. If only we had spent more money on offshore wind, if only we had seen the energy mix, and if only we had done something more to meet the energy mix, then we wouldn't have to worry about Putin at all. But on the other hand, Dieter is close to saying that we haven't done that, and therefore there would have to be a gas bridge for at least 15 years. He's quoted as saying, energy realism is what is required, not naive optimism. Sadly, I have to agree with him.